Caleb Williams, Luther Burden, and the 9-4 Chicago Bears host Myles Garret, Shedeur Sanders, and the Cleveland Browns in a classic northern battle between a couple of Midwestern teams. This one is really fun to break down. The weather is going to be really cold. The run game is probably going to be the pivotal part of this game for both of these two teams. Quinshon Judkins and the Cleveland Browns, they're going to want to keep the football on the ground against the Chicago Bears, protect Shedeur Sanders. Of course, the ball will need to be aired out at times, and that's what you're looking to find out from your rookie quarterback in Shedeur. But with Chicago, Bears fans know this is one of the best rushing attacks in the league. And against Green Bay, look, it wasn't everything you were looking for. It was the opposite of that in the first half, but that offense really got going there in the second half against Green Bay, putting them on skates. 18 points in that second half. They're the only team that's been able to score 20 points or more at Lambeau this season. The only team that's put up over 300 yards against the Packers at Lambeau Field. So still an impressive performance. And Chicago left basically a whole half of football out there to be played. That first half was not great for them, but that team fought. They battled to the end. I can't help but feel that they should have had that game. 4th and 1 felt like anything they would have done. The way the offense was clicking, moving the football, 3 scores on those 3 possessions. Does Caleb keep it and sprint for the corner for the first? Does he drop it in the bucket down to Cole Kmet, or does he give it to DJ Moore, or do they just run the football up the middle? Felt like they had options, and that's what Ben Johnson said. He felt like they had different guys that they would have been able to pick it up. That's why he liked rolling out Caleb Williams, because he's got so much athleticism. There's been, I think, a total of 10 quarterback runs this year that have been 20 miles an hour or more, and Caleb has half of those. That's how good of an athlete that he is. Against this Cleveland team, he's going to need to show it. I think Bears fans remember 4 years ago the way it looked for Justin Fields. I want to say that was the first road start of his career against Myles Garret. I think he had 3.5 sacks, a career day for Myles. He's now at 20 sacks on the season. Now, Chicago's got to do whatever it takes to not let Myles Garret break the sack record against them. This man has been on a tear, frankly, I don't know if we've ever seen in the history of this sport. He had a relatively slow start to the season in terms of sack yardage. He was still incredibly productive, but 4 sacks in 6 games. The last 7 games, well, he's been inhuman. He's got 13 sacks over the last 7. He's got a sack in each of the last 7 games. Darnell Wright, the right tackle for Chicago, he will have his hands full. Ozzie Trapillo, he stepped in, the rookie left tackle. He did decently well enough against Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary against the Packers this past Sunday to, I believe, warrant another start. Myles Garret is going to be a handful throughout this one. Going to know that. But again, so is the Chicago Bears offense. And when you have a team that's second in the league in running the football and they're 5th in time of possession, this game is at home. The Bears are touchdown point favorites for a reason, because of the opportunistic ability of the defense. And then, again, a high-powered offensive attack. They're scoring 26 points a game. That's 8th in the NFL. 370 yards a game. That's 5th in the league. Like we mentioned, the second total team in rushing yards, right behind the Buffalo Bills, and they're 5th in the league in time of possession, just over 32 minutes, and actually had 6 more minutes, time of possession 33 to the Packers 27. Think about that after it felt like Green Bay had all that control in the first half. Now, where that game really wasn't, I would say, was a little bit looked over, I'll change that, was 3rd and 1. Chicago had Josh Jacobs locked up in the backfield. Would have been a 2-3 yard loss and forced the Packers either to kick a long 45-plus yard field goal or to go for it on 4th and 3. Instead, Montez Sweat, TJ Edwards, Gardner Johnson, 3 or 4 Bears miss on Jacobs. He breaks it for a run, and then later on in that drive, 3rd and goal from the 2-yard line, Jacobs is able to back in after initial surge is stopped to give the Green Bay the 7-point lead. Those 2 plays were critical. The Bears felt like they were a beat behind the entire day on defense. Now, for Cleveland, this is an interesting one because I do believe that Chicago is truly getting healthier. But again, I think a lot of Bears fans were perplexed. Nick McLeod was out there quite often. It was like a 50-50 split between Jalen Johnson snaps and Nick McLeod's snaps at corner. And the others were shared by Nahshon Wright. There was no Tyreek Stevenson. And Kyler Gordon, he injures his groin in pregame warmups, and instead of having a top 5 nickel corner on the field, he is unavailable. And CJ Gardner-Johnson, he had his weakest game as a Bear. Look, he's been incredible for this team. I'm not going to knock a guy, but the film and his performance play says it was his worst game as a Bear. He's got to be better. So not having Kyler Gordon, one of the best nickels in the league, and Jalen Johnson only available for about half the snaps on the day, this was not remotely close to the secondary and health that we imagined we'd get to watch in that Bears-Packer game. For the Cleveland Browns, I think it's very crucial, don't need to say it's crucial, excuse me, to just look at that injury report and truly see who is available for Chicago, because Jalen Johnson is a pure shutdown corner. And when he is 100%, there's not a lot of business to go over there, especially with Cleveland. I don't think any Browns fans are going to disagree. This is one of the weaker wide receiving cores in the league. David Njoku, he goes down. He leaves Sunday's loss. That hurt, right? He had one catch. His lone target went for a touchdown. The center, right? He loses. They lose him for the season. It's believed to be an Achilles injury. And then their run game for Chicago and what they're able to produce, it's certainly going to make you feel like the Cleveland Browns are going to need to run the football themselves so that they can maintain time of possession and keep a guy like Myles Garret fresh. Make sure that he's able to be 100% and Chicago doesn't dominate time of possession, something like 35-25. So that Chicago Bear defense, that secondary, that might be a place to attack if they still don't have a Tyreek Stevenson. If they don't have a Kyler Gordon on the field, it's something to consider. Now, if they are available still, it's like, all right, these guys are back, but what's their status? Are they fully healthy? Can they cut the same way? Is there a change of direction the same? How do these guys fare up when they got to backpedal, then turn, flip their hips, and run with someone like Jerry Jeudy down the field? Malachi Corley, for example, it really hurts to not potentially have him and his speed down the field in concussion protocol. A guy now that has to step up is Cedric Tillman. I love Cedric Tillman at Tennessee a couple of years ago. He was spectacular for them. They had that wide receiving core with Jalen Hyatt. There was Brew McCoy. I want to say, was it Dylan Sampson in the backfield, or that might have been 1 year later? But nonetheless, Tillman was that type of wide receiver that could make plays for the Volunteers when needed to be called upon. Third round pick because of his size, 6'3", 215 pounds. He is very impressive at the catch point, and it just really hasn't clicked. It hasn't happened at the next level for Tillman. He's a guy that can stack up one-on-one opportunities for him, but I think that we all know that Harold Fannin Jr., this is where you're going to attack. If Chicago's got CJ Gardner-Johnson in the slot covering him, that's a mismatch. This kid out of Bowling Green has been great this year. I really like him. 6'4", 245 pounds. He can stretch you. He's a little bit more loose, right? He's got more fluid hips than most tight ends have. He's a bit smaller than what you would imagine for a prototypical tight end in the NFL. But again, he's got a little bit more speed and receiving threat ability. I mean, not so much are we looking at a guy that's this, Cole Kmet, 6'6", 260 pounds, that can run block and run routes well. He's got a bit more upside in stretching, going vertically down the field, and attacking that middle of the field will be pivotal for the Cleveland Browns offense to keep them on the field, and that'll be on the right arm of Shedeur Sanders. I want to take a second here to really give a spotlight on a couple of key contributors for the Bears offense this season, as well as the game last week. Colston Loveland, the touchdown. He's been a good run blocker all year. Reliable hands as you will find at the tight end position. He's phenomenal. 6'5", 250 pounds. It's the size, the ability. He's just a rookie, 21 years old. This guy is going to be good for a while. I don't believe that there's any more conversations in Chicago about, dang, like we took Loveland instead of Tyler. All of that talk has now slowed down for good, and I think that Bears fans are quite happy about that selection at 10th overall. Luther Burden. Look, he has the potential to be the number one wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. He stepped up in a way this past week against the Green Bay Packers that you were looking for. Would it be DJ? Would it be Loveland? Is it Luther Kmet? Who will be that? It was Luther Burden. Key moments. Caleb is going to him on that final possession. He's able to make a man miss, hit that right foot in the ground, spin out of there, and pick up another 9 yards after the catch to get the ball to the Green Bay side of the field before the 2-minute warning. Special type player, ball in his hands. He's incredible. And with the injury to Rome Odunze, Chicago is a little bit limited, right? They don't have their first round wide receiver pick from 2024. Who steps up? The second rounder, Luther Burden. Remember, this was a guy that was considered to possibly be a top 5, top 10 pick in last year's draft. After the 2023 season, his quarterback, Brady Cook, gets hurt. He's injured throughout his season, and Luther Burden doesn't have the production the way that he did a year before, so he slides out. The Green Bay Packers took Matthew Golden in the first round. Matthew Golden's name not heard. Like he hasn't done much the whole. I know he's been hurt for Green Bay, but right now Chicago looks like they got a steal with that selection of Burden. And then how about Ozzie Trapillo at left tackle and the way that he stepped in a role? Look, he's still a rookie, developmental prospect. And then the 7th rounder, Kyle Monangai. We're talking about 3 skill position players and 4 total rookies from this draft class. Ryan Poles has gotten so much flack in recent years, but I want to be the person to say Ryan Poles made the trade with Carolina that brought in Darnell Wright, that brought in Caleb Williams. That's it. You can stop the trade right there. Darnell Wright, your future at right tackle. Caleb Williams, your future at quarterback. The Panthers got Bryce Young. And that's not even to mention players like Tyreek Stevenson. They wound up taking Torrey Taylor as well with that. So there's a heck of a lot that you could go down the line and talk negatively about Ryan Poles. I want to be the type of person that talks about men in the world of football, players, in personnel on the field as well as off the field, and coaching and decision makers, and give these guys credits where they deserve it. I think that Cleveland Browns fans would be envious. They would agree with this statement that they wish they could have a quarterback like Caleb Williams playing there in Cleveland, that they could be in a position to where Chicago is at 9-4 with a matchup against their rivals a week after this game. So is this game a trap game? Absolutely. Now the trap game is a spot that can be defined different ways. One way for sure is a huge game the following week and a game against a team with a losing record the week before. Now, with a looming Green Bay Packer rematch, the Bears' focus will no doubt, from the fans' perspective, from the game planning perspective, want another shot at Green Bay. But in order for that game to have even larger implications and enough writing on that game to be bigger than this past one, which is the biggest Bear-Packer game in December in 12 years since the 4th and 8 Aaron Rodgers play in 2013. I was right there. I was third row behind it. Peppers doesn't get him. Rodgers rolls out and breaks the hearts of all Bears fans. But this game was supposed to be that biggest one. It delivered incredible football down to the wire, decided in the last 30 seconds. Next week's game could be a lot bigger, but the Chicago Bears need to beat the Cleveland Browns. If they do that, they will be within a half game of the Packers at worst. There's a situation now. Green Bay is playing at Denver, the current number 1 seed in the AFC. They lose. Chicago beats the Browns at home. The Bears are a game and a half again over the Packers, with then the Packers coming to play them at Soldier Field. And we're right back in a big game spot. Now, I know Browns fans, that was a bit long-winded. I apologize going on that rant, so to say, about Chicago and the way that it sets up. This is how to say, this is a spoil it opportunity. Cleveland fans are on the fence. Do they want to target a quarterback, a guy like Fernando Mendoza? A lot of Cleveland Browns fans are Ohio State Buckeye fans. I personally am an Ohio State Buckeye fan. If you don't follow a lot of my content, I'm a diehard Ohio State fan. I love Big Ten football. I love that northern style. And the Buckeyes just got beat by Indiana. And they got beat flat out, fair and square by that team. A little conservative on offense. They'll have to get back to the drawing board. But that quarterback in Fernando Mendoza, he's the real deal. That throw to Elijah Surratt for the touchdown, the throw on 3rd and 8 for the first down to all but seal the game, leave the Buckeyes no time. Mendoza looks like the real deal. Are the Cleveland Browns going to target him in the draft? Or do they see enough from Gabriel Shedeur Sanders at the end to say, all right, we're going to go into next year, evaluate these quarterbacks, use that pick, top 5 in the draft, to take a Caleb Downs, maybe add him to the secondary. Maybe it's Arvell Reese. Maybe it's Carnell Tate, right? There's going to be 3 Buckeyes that likely will be in a position where the Browns could take them with most likely a top 5 draft position for them to take. They could use another wide receiver. There's an argument Tate's the best draft eligible receiver. Mekhi Lemon. There's Jacoby Lane. There's guys like Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. Or you go Caleb Downs, arguably the best player in the entire draft. So they'll have options. But for Cleveland, are you thinking about the draft? Or are you thinking about putting together a quality game against a team in Chicago that has a lot riding on this one? You're able to spoil that potentially. Come up with an upset on the road. Soldier Field, iconic venue. Games played there. There's a finite amount of them down the stretch. Probably less than 40 Soldier Field games left with the new stadium all but, going to be coming together now at Arlington Heights. So for the Bears in this one, it sort of reminds me, and stay with me here, 2013, I want to say the Chicago Bears were 7-6. The Cleveland Browns weren't having a great season, and the Bears needed to beat Cleveland in that game to be in a spot where they can move to 8-6 overall on the year, and it would have been like win one of their last 2 games to make the playoffs. And Cleveland was tight with them. I want to say that game might have been tied at the half, something like 10-10. Jay Cutler threw a deep bomb down the field to Alshon Jeffrey. You go back to 2021, Cleveland beating the Bears. This has been a series that has had a lot of tight games. Chicago, Cleveland, it's been hard-nosed football, run the ball, muddy, cold. It's one of those environments. We go back to 2017. I think Trubisky and the Bears pulled it out in a snow game, the Snow Angel game, week 15, week 16, something like that. That's I think that's what it was. Remember, Myles Garret was a rookie that year. It went Garrett. Bears traded up from 3-2 to take Trubisky. So it went Garrett and Mitchell Trubisky. Worked out pretty good for the Cleveland Browns in Chicago. It wound up working out pretty well for them as they got Caleb Williams. So for Cleveland to attack Chicago in this game in Shedeur Sanders, I like my matchups with my tight end. And we're going to go there consistently. If it's TJ Edwards in coverage, he's pretty good at it. But let's get the ball to Fannin. Jerry Jeudy. This is the type of wide receiver that's gotten a lot of criticism up north in the Cleveland area, the Ohio area, and they're expecting him to be that guy moving forward, and he hasn't been that. Can he have a game this upcoming Sunday against Chicago that proves to Browns fans that there's a lot left for him, that he can be a true number 1 or at least be a top 2 wide receiver, or is this a guy that's going to be out of town? You go back to what he was at Alabama 5 years ago, a top 15 pick. the reliability of a wide receiver, to have a guy like that for a young quarterback is important. But we do all know Dylan Sampson, his ability out of the backfield. He's been terrific catching the ball, 64 yards against the Tennessee Titans. Now, Chicago Bears fans are saying, look, the Browns just lost at home to the worst team in football, the Tennessee Titans. The Titans ran the football for 184 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 yards a carry total against Cleveland. Why would we need to be fearful of the Browns? The Browns beat the Green Bay Packers. Ladies and gentlemen, if you forgot, the Cleveland Browns beat the Green Bay Packers. I don't think you have to look further beyond that. That's immediately a red flag, red alert here. Having the game at home does help. Shedeur threw for 364. 3 touchdowns. Don't talk about a guy that's got a bit more confidence. He was up there with one of the more historic seasons a couple years ago at Colorado. That's why he was in conversation to be the 2nd overall pick behind Cam Ward, to potentially be the 1st overall guy taken. He was that effective at Colorado. I remember watching him play against UCLA that year, and he couldn't be protected. I mean, that UCLA defense just ate that Colorado offense alive. I think Shedeur Sanders got kicked out of that game with a targeting call. Travis Hunter had an interception in that one. Just wasn't UCLA, overmatched Colorado team. They didn't get better in the trenches till a year later. But what I remember watching from Shedeur Sanders in that release is this kid is accurate. And he's accurate moving to his left as well as to his right. He reminds me somewhat in terms of the accuracy. He doesn't have the fluid hips. He doesn't have the top end speed. He doesn't have the arm strength that Caleb does. But the accuracy pops up. You remember that game against TCU? His first game in the national scene, big noon kickoff. Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson on the call, rolling to his left. He delivers a throw to the left on a head of steam, and it's like, okay, Shedeur Sanders, that arm talent is there. That accuracy is there. He has NFL-type traits. You'd like him to be a bit bigger, a little bit faster, maybe a bit larger arm, but accuracy is something still that is really coveted from NFL GMs, from coaches, and truly gives him a chance to actually be the future for Cleveland. Chicago will have their hands full, especially if they don't have guys back from injury. They need a better pass rush. I was personally expecting more against the Packers. That offensive line has not been healthy the entire season. They have not been able to play together fully as a unit. Chicago, 1 sack. Now, Montez Sweat, big sack, first possession of the game, put the Packers out of field goal range, and it led to that interception from Jordan Love. With Chicago, what do they do with it? 1st and 10 at the 36. The Loveland could have been fumble, wound up as an incomplete pass. Would have been 1st and 10 at the Green Bay 19. Bears could have gone up 7-0 in that game if Loveland pulls it down. They wind up getting no points out of that. That really felt like deflating early in that game. The chance to go up, even kick 3, get a little lead on the road against Green Bay and settle into that one. And instead, it was 0-0. Packers get that play down the field, and you're down and trailing 7-0. Wound up being 14-3 at the half. And you've got to climb back from that hole the rest of the second half. So this game against Cleveland, take no thoughts about it, anything else besides opportunities are opportunities. Chicago's been great at getting takeaways. If they get takeaways against Cleveland and they can't pay it off with touchdowns and they don't score, they're kicking field goals, the Cleveland Browns will be in this game. Shedeur, he will throw a pick. There will be a fumble. There will be a turnover at some point. That's what I want to see. I want to see Shedeur Sanders throw the football 40 times, 320 yards, but the conditions aren't going to allow for that. What type of weather game do we get? Well, it's probably somewhere in the high teens. Could be precipitation from this one. You never know this time of year. Lake effect snow, it could come into effect for this. So Shedeur, I would love to see him in that drop back passing game, chance to throw it down the field. Frankly, though, it's most likely not a recipe for success. Seeing him play, he's going to have to to get used to playing in this cold weather. Playing in Cleveland, playing in Chicago, playing outdoors in Cleveland and practicing. It's not type the factor. I just don't believe that he's fully acclimated to it. So I do think that it is at this point an advantage for Chicago, who just played in those elements this past week against the Packers. Just played in a bit of cool weather against the Eagles in a windy day. I was at that Bears-Steelers game. It was sunny the entire day. Once the sun went down, it actually got a bit more watchable without the sun. Didn't have any sunscreen for that one. It's like a 50-degree day, late November. Incredible to see those bright blue skies. And I didn't bring sunscreen. Who would bring sunscreen? But in any case, the Bears have been playing in some cold weather atmospheres. They're ready for this one. And I do believe in its advantage their way. And where Shedeur, is he able to shock me, to surprise me, and not have an interception, to not take multiple sacks, to get the football out on time, to punt it away without going backwards or putting the ball into harm's way, to keep the clock moving, to stay away from the negative plays. That's really what it will take. As this Bears defense, this Dennis Allen defense will make you pay. The amount of pressure that they send, it will continue. They did it to Jalen Hurts, almost, 40% in dropbacks and sending pressure. Jordan Love coming after him despite Jordan Love with a lot of success. I think Chicago in a couple weeks, they go right back to it. They'll be hoping and probably get a bit more healthy in that secondary. They're going to be sending more pressure and forcing Jordan Love to beat them in the conditions. They will do the exact same thing to Shedeur Sanders. Live and die by aggression. Dennis Allen, his defenses have an identity. You got to credit guys like that live and die by something, that stick to their guns. When it comes down to the big moments, they know what they are, and that is an aggressor, and they will attack. And then if they change it up, that's going to be a thing that the quarterback will have to decipher, that he'll have to look through post-snap. Not a lot more difficult things than having to process information for a quarterback that is a first-year, second-year player on the road, cold weather environment against a defense that leads the league in takeaways, post-snap motion, disguising coverages, and 7-8 guys up by the line, and having to go through that. People forget that this is Jordan Love's 6th year in the NFL. And the comparisons with him and Caleb Williams continue to sweep in. 6-year guy compared to a 2nd-year quarterback. What are we doing? The fact that Caleb, he's 1-2 in that rivalry right now, and they got that game coming up in a week or so, tells you about how ahead of schedule the Chicago football team is right now. They're a 7-point favorite in the month of December, a 9-4 record, a magic number of 4 to get into the postseason. If they get a combination of 2 wins and 2 losses from the Lions, they're in the playoffs. They win 3, the Lions only win 1, they're in the playoffs. They win 1, the Lions lose 3, they're in the playoffs. That magic number is 4 out of a possibility of 8. In order to avoid a winner-take-all with the Lions, where you win, you make the playoffs, you lose, that you're probably out, you would need 4 out of the next 6. Now, the Lions play at the Rams, probably the best team in the NFL right now. That game's on the road. They play them. So if you're able to beat Cleveland, they lose that one. That magic number is only down to 2, and there's still a looming game against the Pittsburgh Steelers for Detroit. It would really come down and be a chance for Chicago to be clinching a playoff spot by week 16 or 17 if they're able to simply just win against the Cleveland Browns and then watch that game between Detroit and the Los Angeles Rams play out. So this game has me excited. I talked about the O-line. I talked about the run games a little bit earlier. Haven't mentioned a lot about DeAndre Swift. He deserves a good amount of credit, what he has done for this Bears offense this year compared to last year. Last year, he had a couple of explosive runs, right? So there's the Washington game down 12-0. He's got, bam, explosive 50-yard run. Bears back in it. Green Bay, he's got a 38-yard run against the Packers. Gives them the lead, I want to say, in that fourth quarter. Against the Rams, second half. he's got a breakaway run. The explosive run hasn't been there for Swift, but what has been the consistency. The 6s, the 5s, the 6s, the 8s, and that's been play after play after play. And he goes for 63 yards on 13 carries. Monangai, 57 yards on 14 carries. I love that. These two guys are that 1-2 punch that keep each other fresh. And running behind Drew Dalman, one of the more underrated interior old linemen in the league. Joe Thuney gets all the credit. Why not? He's a 4-time Super Bowl champion. Right guard Jonah Jackson, he's done an unbelievable job. So this offensive line is really, really good. And the identity of Chicago and what they're building right now is setting up. If they've got another 4th and 1, 4th and 2, do you know what they're going to do? Are they going to run it or pass? By Ben Johnson calling that play for play action, it then puts the next team. If he plays Cleveland this week, it's a big 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. You have no idea if you're Jim Schwartz. You have no clue if it's run or pass because he's put multiple of those on film. They've both been on tape. And, Jim Schwartz, he's an interesting one. This is the former Lions head coach for years. Famously coached Matthew Stafford and those Lions teams. Ndamukong Suh's probably one of the first guys that comes to mind with those Lions teams, and they were physical and they were good. And there's the Jim Harbaugh interaction. They lose to San Francisco, and there's a bit of an aggressive handshake, and Schwartz isn't really having it. I love guys like that. They got a little edge to them. They got a little chip on their shoulder. They got a little bit of a mean streak at times. That's the type of guy that you want to be your defensive coordinator. Coaching guys like Carson Schwarzenegger. Coaching guys like Mason Graham, former Michigan Wolverine. It must be a little bit weird for Cleveland Browns fans seeing Mason Graham, and he's been playing well. Myles Garret. Right, Denzel Ward. I hope Denzel Ward plays. Seeing him go against DJ Moore, I would probably say that Odunze is out another week. No disrespect to Cleveland, but the Packer game is bigger. The Bears should beat the Browns, and if you're able to give Odunze another week off so that he can be back for that second Packer game where you could really use him. There were times where it looked like the Bears could just use another threat downfield. They had no throws beyond 25 yards, I want to say, down the field in this game. They just don't take shots. The Bears aren't we're going to take a shot down the field, throw the ball. It's just not in the Ben Johnson offense. To him, it feels like a wasted play. He's talked about how he doesn't like contested catches. He doesn't like one-on-ones. To me, it's like, why is Rome Odunze in your depth chart then? Why is he on this team? This is the number 1 contested catch wide receiver during the 2023 college football season, and that's a trait that he did as good as anything, as well as guys like Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brock Bowers at side. He was doing as well as anybody, and Ben Johnson doesn't believe in it. So we'll see how that adapts over time, and that's what's truly interesting about the way teams evolve together and the way that you adapt is, did the Bears take one-on-ones to Odunze? Is that something that we ever see in this offense, or does it have to be him relying on improving as a route runner and gaining separation to create more space for Caleb to throw the football into? So is that what Odunze has to do? I mean, 6'3", 215 pounds, developing as an athlete and physically, a matchup like Denzel Ward is something I would love to watch. Out of Ohio State, an Ohio guy there in Cleveland, him going up against this type of competition, you just want to see the best players available. Now, if you're a Bears fan, maybe you don't want Denzel Ward on the field because you want a simpler path. I get it. Haven't been in the playoffs for 5 years. Haven't won a playoff game since 2010. I get it as much as anyone does. But I want to beat the best. To be the best, you got to beat the best. Indiana, for example, in college, they just beat the Buckeyes. They're going to motivate that Ohio State team, and they probably go on another run. They get a free win in the first round, bye into the next round. For the Bears, that loss to Green Bay, they are probably a pissed off team. The last time they lost a game, they went on a 5-game win streak, and they beat Cincinnati. They beat the New Orleans Saints earlier on in the season in a tight sort of tighter game than you would have liked it to be. In that one, I'm stressing that game because Chicago had a chance for a complete game, and they didn't have one because of game management at the end of the first half. It was 20-0, should have been 20-0 going into the half. Instead, it was 20-14 with 10 minutes left in the third quarter because Ben Johnson got a little bit aggressive there. Could have taken 20-0. Bam, big play to Chris Olave. Another play to Chris Olave, and at 20-7, the Saints come out and score out of the half. So what I bring up the Saints game for is there a complete game then for Chicago? They played one complete game this season. It was against the Eagles on the road. One of the best wins in football this year by anybody. There's no doubt about that. They dominated Green Bay for 4 quarters on defense. They dominated the Detroit Lions for 4 quarters on defense on Sunday night. And for Chicago, I want to see a complete game. I'd love to see this Bears team being a rematch with the Packers, them being 10-4, Green Bay 9-4-1, or Green Bay 10-3-1. Basically, the NFC North decided in that Week 16 battle. But I want to see a complete win, or Caleb looks clean, or he's got a game where he has completion percentage right around 70% and doesn't miss the easy ones. And the offensive line protects him, and he's only sacked 1 time. Green Bay only sacked him 1 time. 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. The Bears protected him decently. He did run for his life a couple times. He did scramble 4 times. But again, he was only sacked once. The pressure has been evaded a bit better, but the completion percentage still remains low. It's still below 60% on the season. That's not good enough. Hasn't turned the ball over that much this year. That's been great. Now, that touchdown interception ratio is over 3-1. That's fantastic. That's incredible. That's the key right there. If you can be over 3-1, you can win Super Bowls. It's that simple. But if you add in completion percentage, what does that do? Keeps that clock moving, time of possession. Your defense gets to heal up a little bit more. Your edge rushers, your pass rushers, they're able to have a little bit of a breather. Your offense is able to threaten more blades of grass. They got to defend more because they say, okay, he can make that throw to the far hash. Oh, okay. All right. We know he has to make that. We have to defend that now. If he's able to hit a hole shot, cover 2, he's able to hit a corner and fit that ball in there they have to be able to defend that. So there's certain coverages that teams are going to be a little bit wary of. If you're able to show them on the field of play that you can make them pay, that you can attack more blades of grass. So I want to see a game where Caleb has, I'll set it right now at 67% completion percentage. I want to see it higher than that, completing over 2/3 of his passes. Because if the Bears are to win games in the postseason, and I know it's cold weather and you can be a bit sloppier, but to win games in the playoffs, Chicago will need Caleb to complete a higher percentage of his passes. They can't have those incompletions, because those incompletions in the second half, if you've got a lead, it gives the other team a chance to get the ball back. Or if you're trying to just put it away, you're up 5, and there's 4 minutes left, and you complete that pass on 2nd and 5, and it's going to be a first down. Clock keeps moving. Instead, the clock stops. You give a chance to the other team to get the ball back. Completions are important. Ben Johnson talks about he wants to be completion-driven. Caleb Williams to be completion-driven. That stems through everything, down to the core. He talked about it improving. There was a stretch there in the second half. Those 3 drives plus the final drive up until that interception on the underthrow to Cole Kmet, Caleb Williams looked as good as any other quarterback in the NFL. Rolling to his right, dime to Kmet, rolling to his right, touchdown throws. I mean, my goodness. Rolling to his right, sets throws, Devin Duvernay sideline. I mean, this Cleveland Brown team is going to have a hassle. Does Myles Garret have it in him to have a 3-4 sack day, to wreak havoc, keep the Browns in this one? I'll go out here and say it, that I think it takes something like that for Cleveland to be in this one, because the Bears can mitigate that. They can run the football 42 times for 180 yards, right around 4.5, 5 yards a carry. Keep away from the turnover. Take the ball away from Shedeur Sanders. Quinshon Judkins is very dynamic. Make him have to have an explosive run. There's a lot of paths to victory for Chicago. I think that the cleanest, simplest one is pairing the run and pass together and Caleb attacking. So is Odunze available for Chicago? I hope Denzel Ward is available. Same way I hope that a guy like Kyler Gordon is available for the Bears going forward here to win in the postseason, because that's the goal right now, is to win the NFC North. You're right there, a half game back. You play Cleveland at home. They play the Denver Broncos on the road. You, going into this week, are expecting to be a half game up above the Packers before the next matchup. You win that game, then you'll be a game and a half up with 2 games left. The full driver's seat right there ahead of you. That's the opportunity that exists for Chicago. So this is incredible to be talking about this Bears team. The word playoffs involved, that's there. They will be playing for a chance to be in the postseason until week 18, and all the more likely than not, they can clinch it week 16 or 17. They're able to take care of business and play the way they did in that second half against the Packers. Improvements on defense, pressure on the quarterback, and tightening up in that secondary, and that will again help with guys returning and getting healthier. Tremaine Edmonds back probably week 16, week 17 in a key moments, and then we'll see what happens in the secondary there. So I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. Double-digit win here, 27-16. I feel like the Browns can move the football on Chicago. They will have their chances. Overall, when it'll come down to it, probably a takeaway or 2. Field goal settled for in the red zone, and the Bears too much as a rushing attack, too much as an offense right now with these weapons, with Loveland, Kmet, Burden, DJ Moore, who's rolling this offense. You're still trying to involve him more. Monangai, Swift, there's so much there. The O-line, top to bottom. Very tough task for Cleveland to get it done. I don't believe that they do. Bears 27-16 and move to 10-4 on the season, securing their first double-digit season since 2018. I appreciate all of you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of this game. Who wins it? Am I right? The Bears get the win at home against Cleveland, or do the Browns somehow pull off a massive upset? This would be one of the biggest upsets in the NFL next week. A contender in Chicago. This team is a contender. They proved it beating Philly on the road. Playing for 59.5 minutes with the Green Bay Packers. They proved it now. So now is their opportunity to get there and give themselves a shot to be that contender, to truly contend. They are a contender. Can they stamp their ticket to actually show it up in the dance and have their opportunity? It is all right out there in front of them. Teams like the 49ers are battling for a spot with, you play the Niners. Teams like the Lions are battling for a spot with, you play the Lions and Jared Goff at home. Team like the Packers, you're battling for the NFC North with, the home playoff game at Soldier Field for the first time in 7 years. You control that destiny. It's a great time to be a Chicago Bear football fan. Thank you so much to everybody for watching this one. Northern football is back. Cleveland Brown fans, you've got that Jaguar pick. You've got your own first rounder. There's a lot of reason to be optimistic. Quinshon Judkins, Mason Graham, Carson Swedinger. I love this draft class. It's coming together here. Now let's see what Shedeur Sanders has in this one and how we can evaluate them going forward here. If you enjoyed this Blitz with Winter video, please subscribe. Hit that button for more in the future. Leave a like, comment down below. Again, my name is Josh Blinder. I make NFL college content weekly, getting you guys set and ready for these games. It's heading towards the middle of December now. Playoff implications everywhere. The college football playoff starts in less than 2 weeks. Excited for that. We'll have all those matchups ready and broken down for you guys to stay tuned. Can't wait to interact with all of you in the future. Get down in the comments. I'll be sure to respond to all of you. Appreciate you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blunder. To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.